Yeah, well, let's dig in. Hello, everybody. I'm David Cooks, and I tell you what, we know that paralysis can take on many forms. It can be physical, like mine. It can be
do anything you put your mind to.
And what we try to do is feature stories that go from difficult places to fulfilling purpose.
What seems impossible can be done by you.
And our guest today, he's been an athlete, he's been educated, and he gives back and keeps giving back.
It may knock you down, but don't let it stop you.
And I'm excited to have one of the vice presidents of one of our foundations here in Milwaukee, Frank Cumberbatch, with us today.
I said, Mom, don't worry about it. God, give me a one-way ticket to America. Give me everything you got. Put everything I own. And we're going. I don't know what I'm going to do when I get there, but I promise you this. When I get out of there, your life is different. And she said, son, I believe you.
Got so much to give, a lot of life to live. You must go from paralysis to purpose.
Get your pen and paper out.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes.
Paralysis to purpose.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast. I'm your host, David Cooks. And you know, paralysis can take on a lot of different forms. So we talk to a lot of people about a lot of things here. And our guest today, you're in for a treat. He's accomplished much in his life. He thinks outside the box. He's been an athlete. He's been educated. He's a philanthropist. Easy for me to say. And he gives back and keeps giving back. And I'm excited to have one of the vice presidents of one of our foundations here in Milwaukee who does great work, Frank Cumberbatch, with us today. And Frank, welcome to Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast.
Thank you very much, David. I've been looking forward to this.
So I'm going to have him share with you a little bit of his background, where he's originally from. And, you know, it's interesting because when we think of immigration now, when we think of immigrants, a picture has been painted that doesn't necessarily reflect who Frank is and how immigration is a good thing. And yes, we need to make sure we have rules and regulations and those things, but a lot of our country is based on people just like Frank and his family. So Frank, take us back to when you were sleeping on the floor and, you know, all of that stuff, because you all see him right now or hear him right now. He ain't always looked like this.
Born and raised in a small town called Arima, Trinidad, country of Trinidad and Tobago, my hometown. They always say you could take a man out of Trinidad, but you can't take Trinidad out of the man, which is absolutely true, man. The home of the steel band, and it's you think of Carnival, you think of the girls, and makes you happy. But for me, you know, born into a poor family. But a family I won't trade for anything. You know, we had nothing, but we had each other. I'm the first of 7. Mom and dad, teenagers when I was born. As a matter of fact, my mom was so young. I spent the most of my early years with my grandmother. And living with my grandmother in those early years, you know, the bed was made out of coconut fiber, you know, and you peel the outside of the coconut, that dry stuff, they peel it out, they put it in a sack, they make you a pillow out of that, they make you a mattress out of that. That stuff will poke you all over your body, keep you up all night, man. The walls of the house was some sticks, and then you take some mud, put some of that same straw in there. You put it on the wall, you let that dry, you paint that, and that's the wall, and that's home. But what is home? Home is about relationships and your friends and your family, and you're happy. You know, you're happy. You don't have much, but God gave you plenty. We have fruits and vegetables all over the place. You go to a store here to buy bay leaf and clove and cinnamon. We go in the backyard. My grandmother sent me in the backyard and said, okay, bring me 2 bay leaf, see if you get some clove and some spice, and fire up the mud oven. We're baking some bread today.
You said it a couple of times. You didn't have much, but you had each other, and that's a pretty powerful statement, and it's a reflection on the value of family and community. Where did that come from?
It's passed down. You know, when I think when people have a history of poverty, you sort of make your life inside of that, right? So you then have to pivot from what you don't have, take great stock in what you do have, right? And realize that you have two parents, you have brothers and sisters, you have food that's grown in the ground, and that's it.
Wow.
That is it right there. And so we in growing up, we talk and laugh about that in that journey, right? We lived in a sort of a 2-room house. We had 1 bed for 7 children, 1. And we laugh at it today. And then I tell you this, you might think it's funny too. So when you wake up, you make your little 1/7 of the bed.
So you were being taught responsibility. You didn't care. I don't care how little or how big. You had a responsibility to make sure you took care of what was yours.
Oh man, I got responsibility now. Well, now you're transitioning into something else here, David. The water source sometimes was a half a mile away. Okay, so here's how your day went. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about when you're children now. You're young. My mother had a 55-gallon drum, and you had to fill that every day before 6 o'clock because you got to get ready to go to school, right? So go with me now. It's a 55-gallon drum. You take up, you have 2 pails. I think they might hold about, 10 gallons, total, right? And you walk that half. You walk back. You pour that in. You walk back. You bring it. You pour that in, and that's how she did the dishes. She did the laundry, right? And all of that for us for the day while we're going to school. So we do that in the morning. Now, it's me and my 2 brothers, still dark outside. So we have each other. We will laugh for that half mile and back. And we do that in a blink of an eye. We didn't even know we're doing that because we're talking, we're laughing. We might steal a mango here or there and in somebody's yard on the way. We made it fun. So it just shows you that if you have the resolve, and you're resilient enough to not complain of where you are in that moment, you can find joy inside of poverty and in the moment, as long as you're working towards that mindset of getting yourself out of it, right? And that was always my MO. I took it upon myself that I'm going to get everybody out of it.
Wow. So you talked about mindset and perspective, because poverty is a form of paralysis. And right. Correct. And it's not just financial, it's psychological and how it impacts your thinking. And it really can impede you if you have a poverty mindset, because that's not what you had. When did you know that wasn't how you were supposed to live?
I was given a gift, and I'm not a really big believer, but I do believe there is something supreme that rules the universe.
Okay.
And I was given the gift of learning. I would read everything, David, to the point where my grandmother and my mother used to actually tell me to go outside and play. They used to say, it's put the book down now. Okay, that's enough. Go outside and play. And so by reading everything, I used to look within and say, okay, this is my life. And then I might be reading a National Geographic, or I'm reading Popular Mechanics, or I'm reading Sports Illustrated, and I'm saying, wow, they actually live like this in America? Really? Wow, I got to experience that. One of the first fascinating things I thought about this country, in the back of the comic books, there used to be ads for camp in the back. You look in the back and, you can go to camp in New Hampshire, and there's horseback riding and archery and fishing and canoeing. And I'm like, no way. No, they don't send anybody. That's a lie. They don't do that. But I used to think, then I start to dream of myself in that space. And that used to be my motivation of, I have to experience this. I just have to. And so when I turned, I think I was 13. They, in our little neighborhood, somebody created a little track meet in a little piece of grass somewhere. 10 cents to enter an event. I don't have 10 cents, but I thought I saw 10 cents in my mom's purse. I went home and I took the 10 cents and I got down there and I paid and I entered the boys' 150-meter dash. And I lined them up and I won. And they gave me like a little tumbler, kind of like a little wine glass kind of thing. That was my first prize. I bolted home to show my mother what I got for her 10 cents.
Right.
But she took it, she put it in her little cabinet type thing there. And years later, when that moment made me believe that I could do something, but I'm not sure how. And at the same time, I'm going to school and learning, and I'm doing well. The math teacher, remember him saying one day, hey, Cumberbatch, I want you here on Saturday morning. We're doing some calculus. And I'm like, why me? It's Saturday morning. Well, why am I supposed to come here? But when I got there and it's only 5 of us got chosen, David, I thought I grew 20 feet. I'm like, oh yeah. I hit the mother load here. I'm in a special place. I'm one of 5 that got selected. And that's kind of how it started to build, and the guys in the neighborhood, shortly after I won that race, one of the guys one of the coaches says, hey, we got a track club up the road. Why don't you join? So I go up and join. I can never forget, it was a Sunday. I go see the coach and he says, well, we have a little time trial. I want you to go with those 4 girls over there. So I start smiling. I'm like, I know what he's doing. He wants me to win so I could come back. Hey, David, those girls beat the daylight out of me.
You guessed wrong.
And I had to walk home with them, by the way. So it wasn't pretty. To their defense, one was the very first female to represent the country in the Olympics, 1972 Olympics. Very first female. She was 16 years old. That's our neighborhood. So we don't have much. We have each other, but we're in a culture where you're encouraged to do. That's the difference. When I look here, I see some of the differences in ways that I can change things because I could see the chasm.
Yeah. Wow. So I didn't know all that happened before you got to the United States.
Oh yeah, I got to the United States because of it. So I start to run, and now I must tell you, one thing I didn't say along in that journey, and if my mother were here, she'd be elbowing me, said, you didn't tell him about the asthma.
No, you didn't.
She told me years later, you average 3 days a week of school. The rest, you're either in the hospital or you're home. The asthma is so bad, you can't do anything, right? So like a fool, I decided I'm going to run, and I can hardly breathe most days. But as I'm doing it, I'm like, hey, I'm starting to feel pretty good. What's going on? So I keep going and keep going. It's not like I had any talent, but I could see it's benefiting me to go. The other thing I'm noticing that's happening is my self-esteem is growing. You know, when you're poor like that, you're kind of shy. You don't want people to come and visit you, your houses. You don't have electricity. You don't have running water. You're feeling bad about yourself. The neighbor has more than you, and you know, all of that kind of stuff. But when I became part of this thing bigger than me, my friends started, they're going somewhere, they include me, they pull up in their car and, hey, we going, you're coming? I start to feel, wow, part of something. I start to feel human. Start to feel like, hey, wow, me? You're including me? Yeah, we going, come on. And so that's when it started to really happen. And that's when my confidence started to grow. And I start to think differently, like this is going to happen. I will make this happen.
So as your confidence began to grow and you begin to see and experience other things, you start to begin to tell yourself, this is really going to happen.
I could see the path between there and a way out for the rest of my family, because the coaches are coming every year from the United States in our national championship. And every year is 15 or 20 leaving to go to American universities on track scholarship. You know, and I'm just waiting. Oh, when are they gonna call my name?
The one thing you said, you were given the gift of learning and the ability to discern. I think that you could see what other people just probably couldn't.
Had a huge appetite for it.
Huge
appetite to constantly learn. I would try to learn anything whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that opened up for you a world of imagination and everything else.
Yeah, a world of possibilities. It's possible. I'm not absolutely sure where I'm going, but I do know I'm walking in the right direction.
Wow.
That I know, because I could see people leaving this club, the guys older than me, who are better than me in terms of talent. And I know, don't let me get on that airplane and land in the United States. It's over. The day that letter came, I showed my mother and I said, all right, I promised you I am going to do this, and I'm going to do it. Wow.
So let's talk about that day. There's a couple of things that, boy, I really want to go back and talk about the whole asthma thing, because
that was crazy, man.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and you ran anyway. You didn't even really consider that. You weren't even cognizant of your condition, but you sensed all of a sudden it was getting better?
I was cognizant of it from the standpoint of, I know there is no way I could run like them because my chest hurts, right? Or, 4 days gone by and I'm laying on the bed wheezing and they're doing their best, and I get up and I go again. But what I did know, I can feel it inside of my lungs. It's getting better. Instead of an asthma attack twice a week, once every other week, then once a month. And then I'm like, okay, all right, this is good. So when I get an asthma attack in my head, what I used to say, okay, just hurry up and pass. Because the moment you pass, I'm back out there. It used to be once a year. After that, I don't get asthma attacks anymore.
Yes. We could stop the podcast right here, but we're not going to.
I don't get them anymore. And but the lesson, David, the lesson in this whole thing, which is what I try to tell mothers and fathers and the youth when I get to talk to them, don't spend your time feeling sorry about where you are in the moment. You know, be in the moment, be present, look at it, and think about, how do I get to put this away and move on? How do we do that? And I think if people did more of that, they will get out of the situation that they're in, right? Run one block, David, one, and go back home, and then run two, and go back home, and then three. You don't have to run. I'm going to run a marathon. What is that about?
Right.
You don't do that. Go one block, then two, then three, but go back home and celebrate it. Moment of what you did today, not yesterday, not tomorrow.
Yep.
Right now.
Wow.
What did you do today? Be completely aware of where you are in the moment, and that is all that matters.
Well, that's a great place for us to take a really quick break. And when we come back, I want to dive into the letter you received and when it was time for you to make that move.
You're listening to Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast with David Cooks and his guest, Frank Cumberbatch. What great reminders just there from Frank about the one-day-at-a-time mentality that enables us to overcome even the most daunting adversity, to embrace the process and celebrate the small daily victories en route to achieving much bigger ones. We'll return to part 2 of this episode entitled Running to America in just a moment. First, a brief sample of David's newly released audiobook, Getting Undressed from Paralysis to Purpose. In Chapter 11, David recalls how he became a head basketball coach for the first time at the age of 30. Facing the challenge of building a new, winning culture at Darien High School in Connecticut, David drew upon the lessons he gained from past experience, in particular during his years with the Duke basketball program.
Almost immediately, I realized I inherited a basketball program that lacked standards, discipline, and leadership. Darien basketball was built around one player who was given the green light to basically do whatever he wanted in practice and in games. Sharing the ball and working together as a team was not part of the Darien culture yet. My job was to turn this culture around before we could address the X's and O's of the game. That had to change first if we wanted any chance of becoming a respectable program in the FCAC. Changing a culture starts with changing the mindset. Each player had to shift how he conducted things, and we needed to feed ourselves the winning habits and skills that we wanted to see come out of us. We couldn't just talk about change. We had to practice it. Change doesn't happen by happenstance. It requires a willingness to confront fear, pain, and uncomfortable truths, and the courage, discipline, and hard work to produce tangible results. Hard work makes people tired, and it can be tedious, but it develops a special kind of work ethic and muscle memory that shows up in critical situations. A winning culture competes every day, improving individual and collective skill sets. It never marginalizes roles or responsibilities. Instead, it stresses the importance of each role in accomplishing universal goals. In a winning culture, each player is expected to work hard, stay prepared, care for one another, make sacrifices, and produce when called upon. Winning and losing have as much to do with the talent and the opponent as they do with strategy. To consistently win at any level, in any sport or business, you must have talented players on your roster who embrace the culture of the team or the organization. Culture is about the approach. It's about what you do and what you don't do. I knew all too well the value of having encouraging influences around me, of finding victories in the midst of what others considered defeat, and of bonding as a team to keep the ship afloat during turbulent times. The players, the parents, the coaches, the administrators, everyone within the program needed that. Developing trust in each other had to happen first, because without trust, there can be no change.
That's David Cooks narrating his book, Getting Undressed from Paralysis to Purpose. Treat yourself to a copy. It's available to purchase from Audible and the Apple Audiobook Store. Now, let's get back to part 2 of Running to America with David and his guest, Frank Cumberbatch.
Hey, let's pick it up where we left off. And you mentioned you got the letter.
Letter comes, opens it up. University of Wisconsin at Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Congratulations. Once it says that, I know it. Okay, then. All right, And it tells, I read it, blah, blah, blah. You've been accepted. It says you got a partial scholarship. David, the fee was $400 a year. That's what I owe. My mother looks at it. My mother knows she doesn't have any $400.
Right.
I said, Mom, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. God, give me a one-way ticket to America. Give me everything you got. Put everything I own, and we're going. And I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm going to do when I get there. But I promise you this, when I get out of there, your life is different. And she said, son, I believe you. You've never steered me wrong. And she came back. I have a suitcase, everything I own, my pillow, my clothes, the sheet on my bed. Oh, she put everything in there. Fit in one suitcase. And she gave me $35 US. Remember that number. Put in my pocket, on a one-way plane ticket. I land in New York. And I'm in New York and I'm saying to myself, boy, I've seen those Big Macs and those ads on TV, and boy, I want one. And I look up in the airport and I see it, McDonald's. I never been in one ever. 35 cents for one. Really? Go over there and we'll spend a little money out of this 35. But I had to have it just to say I'm in America. Uh-huh. I arrived. I'm a hero, man. At JFK. I bought my Big Mac. I ate it, caught my flight. Now, I know about America. I know Miami. I know Chicago. I know New York. I know LA. High-rise buildings, lights. That's what I know about America, right?
Yes.
So the plane flies from JFK to Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and it lands. And I got off the plane, and I thought we got hijacked, man. I'm so, where are the big buildings? What is this place? There's nothing but a little tiny airport and the airplane. And I got off the plane, and there's my coach waiting for me. I'm so happy to see him, and he takes me to my dorm and everything, and he settles me in. The next day, says, come to my office and take me over to the administration building. And they gave me an invoice, amount due, $400. I said, Coach, I don't have $400. He said, all right, that's no problem. I'll put you on the payment plan. I said, cool. What is that? Well, 100 this time, that time, bum. I don't have that either.
All right.
Said, okay, don't worry about it. I'm gonna get you a job over at the stadium, and you're gonna do a little work over there. You got a little money. Yeah, I'll handle that. Did a little money, and paid my money to the school from my low pay at the stadium. Got my books and first semester. That's how it comes. Summer comes and got a job right at school. Stay there, cleaning toilets, painting walls, fixing up this and that. Paid that. Sophomore year, track season comes. We have a track meet in Madison. I'm the only non-Big Ten athlete in the race. So and I win the race. 400 meters, a little D3 school. So the University of Michigan coach on the field, my coach is sitting up in the stands. He walks up to me and he sticks his hand on it. Nice run, young man. I says, thank you, sir. So I go up in the stands. Now, my coach saw that little interaction, right? Mm-hmm. He says to me, what the Michigan coach said to you. And the light bulb went off like that in my head. Oh, coach says, call me. He said, what? He said, told me to call him. Man only said congratulations. Man didn't say a word to me. We go back to school the next day. He said, Cumberbatch, come see me. We're going over to see people. We go over in the administration office. They give me another form. The bottom says balance due. Zero. I never paid a dime to go to school after that.
They didn't want to lose you to Michigan.
Are you kidding me? I didn't know Michigan from
right.
The man never said anything. I figured I got to do something. I can't continue to do this.
So you are now a sophomore. What are you studying?
I'm studying business administration.
Okay.
I wanted to understand about business, trying to find my way, figure out what I'm doing. I liked it. It was good. I broke the school record indoor and out in the 400 meters that very year, 1981. That record lasted for 36 years. Longest track and field record in the history of the school. And that was my ticket. So I stayed there. I ran. I represented the school as an ambassador, got an education. And after that, off to the races.
What was your experience like as a student there? I want to see what your mindset was as a student of color during that time. What did what was it like?
Now, I have to put a disclaimer when I say that. I'm not saying that there wasn't.
Right.
And I think it has something to do with, again, my mindset. I am right or wrong. I'm not telling people that I am right, that I have some answer. I'm not judging, and
right.
If they want to judge me, that's fine. But just as I want to read everything, I want to know all kinds of people.
Okay.
I want to know all kinds of people. I had a friend took me home for Thanksgiving, white guy. And I think he got married while he's in college. Okay. Take me to his girlfriend's. It was 17 of them. They lived on a farm, and they said, well, we're going to take you to the farm. I'm like, yes, I've never been on a farm. I want to. And you're sleeping. And by 4 o'clock in the morning, I hear this ruckus. Hey, you got to get up. I said, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Why do I have to get up? Well, you have to get up. You're on the farm. You got to go out and do some chores. I'm like, man, and all the kids are up, all. And they're moving around and they're doing their thing. And I'm looking at this going, yeah, this is America. This is a slice of America that I felt so privileged to see. Yeah, friends who take me to parts of northern Minneapolis, Swedish people where we eat lutefisk, and I'm just thinking, yeah, I want all of it.
You were taking it all in.
I want all of it. I want to see every town, every type of people, white, black, Muslim, Jews, you name it. I want to experience it all because this country to me is so big. It's so powerful that there wasn't any way where I was of this single mindset that I'm Black, therefore I am in this lane.
And so you were going into these experiences not anticipating anything negative. You were just trying to glean from every opportunity you could to grow from.
Yeah, and so if it came my way, I just turn and walk away and go and keep going. I didn't really have time for that. You want to call people names. You hate this one. You pointing it. You go ahead. I'm done with you.
Instead of you letting them occupy your time and your mind, you're like, I don't have time. I don't
have time for it. You know, the other thing I think that worked for me is I accepted people in a lot of ways where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and to be honest with you, I think once people recognize that, then it's easier for them to accept you.
Yeah.
And so once you reach people where they are and you intentionally communicating with them and you're building relationships with them, I find that gets a whole lot easier to make a friend, to really deal with the differences in people,
mm-hmm.
and you move forward. And that has served me extremely, extremely well.
So meeting people where they are and giving them a chance to grow and for your relationship to build, and not being judgmental about the people that you're interacting with has served you well.
It has. And later on in life, and I'm talking about later on, like within the last decade,
mm-hmm.
in continuing to read and continuing to learn, I learned that it's the ultimate joy, the ultimate happiness is in relationships. It's not in the things you have. It's not in money. It's not in cars. It's not in homes. It's in relationships. That's where joy happens. That's where true happiness lies.
And that seed of family relationship was planted in you back in Trinidad.
From the beginning of the story.
Wow.
If one thing my brothers and my sisters and I laugh about is the seven of us. So at Christmas time, we have a tradition. The day after Christmas is called Boxing Day, right? Which is British type stuff. We were a colony until we became independent in 1962. So on Boxing Day, everybody goes around to everybody's house and you get a drink, right? Happens on Christmas Day too. Now, but we live in this little house. So where we're sleeping on the floor at night, and that's when we had the floor. Before that was the ground. But when we're sleeping on the floor during the day, that's the living room,
mm-hmm.
right? So somebody knocks on their door and they're playing their music, and so now we need to turn the bedroom into the living room like that. You got to roll up your bed and quickly go in another room, and then your parents have to entertain, and then when you hope they leave quickly because you're falling asleep, and, they leave and you put it back. Now, that's hard during that time.
Right.
But today, if my brothers and my sisters were here, they would tell you that is where our values and our characters were formed. We laugh now at that. It was us. That is all we had.
Wow. So in the midst of lack, you had all that you needed. You had all that
you needed. You didn't need anything else. My grandmother, who did not see the inside of a school, I asked her once, I said, Ma, we called her Ma, I'm supposed to know the difference between right and wrong. Can you tell me, if I'm out by myself, how am I supposed to know? And she said, it's very simple. Just ask yourself this question. If the act you're about to perform will bring shame to your family name, it's wrong. And David, that old lady's been gone for 50 years. My parents and my dad's been gone for another 20-something. And as a grown man, I still ask myself that question.
Wow.
I still find myself in situations, and before I pull the trigger, I ask myself, if I did that, would that bring shame to the Cumberbatch name? And if my gut says yes, I walk away.
That is a great way to know right from wrong. If it brings shame to the family name. And I think we have lost some of that in our community some.
We hope you're enjoying Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Paralysis to Purpose for more updates. Also, check out David's website at davidcookspeaks.com to learn more about his mission and purchase his book, Getting Undressed, From Paralysis to Purpose.
Because we've got to wrap up soon. You've always given back. And I want to talk about that because even though there are people who will hear some of the things that you said and then talk and hear some of your ideologies politically and otherwise, and will miss that you are a man that is filled with compassion and has always reached back, whether you were coaching with the Mustang track group, whether it's what you do now, as you're always looking for legacy and legacy that will impact the community. Can you talk a little bit about where that's come from, why you do what you do, and the importance of legacy?
Well, the legacy comes from the way I see human purpose on the earth.
Okay.
Why are we here? I can't talk for everybody.
Right.
But I believe I was sent here through Irene Cumberbatch to serve people. But my role is to give of myself, my knowledge, the things I have to people. That's where I get the most joy.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? When I see a child comes in, they have a little bit of talent, but I move them to a place where another like me, a university calls and they get that letter and they're like, Coach, look, University of Iowa called and this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
That is the ultimate joy, right? And I think we are all, the adults are all stewards of the children, including my own. I have 3 kids. And I don't really, in my head, don't really see them as mine. I just think that they're a gift to me to get them to a place where they could go on and live their own lives. That's the gift I was given. Here, take these 3 and get them ready so that when they're an adult, they can compete and survive. And that's how I treat my children. And that's how I see other people's children. So when I look at my journey and I look at the young people's, girls and boys, I look at their eyes, I see myself. And so my legacy for this town is I want to build a facility through which they could come, get the experience of sport and wellness and tutoring and counseling and mentoring. You can put all kinds of verbs in there, David.
Yeah.
They could get regardless of their family situation, regardless of their ability to pay, regardless of their ability to learn, that if you come in these doors, there are people waiting for you to give you a fighting chance to succeed. Wow. And that is what I want as my legacy for what this country, the greatest country on the planet, it has problems, don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
It has a lot of problems. But this place called the United States of America, for me, is the greatest country in the world, bar none. And this is my give back to this place to say, thank you for letting me in.
You know what? I think we just need to end it on that. And again, this is just one man's story, one man's journey. But there are so many principles that I think anyone can learn. But you've gone from a place of paralysis. You had nothing as a child except the love of your family, which is everything you needed. You understood community, and you understood the importance of knowledge.
But let me just say this. I want to turn the tables on you a little bit, because you, in my mind, represent that mindset.
Yeah.
Since I've come to know you, I have never heard you mention that wheelchair. Not once have you ever mentioned it. I have never heard you or seen you demonstrate, oh, poor me.
Right.
Right? And there lies the similarity between us, because you're right. Poverty, that's paralyzing, man.
It is the challenges in life that determine what you're going to be like. It's not the easy stuff. It's what you do during those tough times. And like you said, you know what? If I could gain something through complaining, then I would. But there's nothing to gain. Well, this has been great. So thank you. Thank you for your time, your story. It inspired me. There are things I didn't know all of that. And it's got me all like juiced up again. I love doing the podcast, and this is why I love doing it, because everybody's story is the most powerful thing they have. And unfortunately, too many people aren't telling their story. There are a lot of Frank Cumberbatches around that we need to hear from.
Well, you know what? They're not taking time to live the story. Stop. Look at the flowers. Enjoy this world that we live in.
Yeah.
And realize it's a beautiful place, man.
It's a beautiful place.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, with that, thank you so much. And until next time on Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast, this is David Cooks reminding you that your ability to endure is always greater than your willingness to endure.
You can do anything you put your mind to.
Thanks for tuning in to Paralysis to Purpose. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paralysis to Purpose on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. To purchase his book, visit davidcookspeaks.com. Be sure to tune in next time for more inspiring conversations with David Cooks.
My first 19 years as a head coach, we never made it past the semifinals. In my last 11 years, we made the finals 8 times and won 6. And, they'd ask me, how do you stay there? And I really think it's growth.
Next time on Paralysis to Purpose.
Welcome Coach Jim Johnson to the podcast.
What I see too often between teams, athletic teams or businesses, is they'll have a great year and then they'll say, you know what, we're good. We're just going to keep everything the same.
Paralysis to purpose.